Hello from Bali. This is the podcast Pigeon of Peace, where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about paradoxes, and let's start with the definition.
Paradoxes, it's very strange to explain, but it's happened, but no one would believe or no one would expect this. I will give you some. For example, I have been to Africa and I found that some fishes, they use their fins to go through the desert
Desert.
to change the lake. So fishes who attempt to live in the water, they go by the sand in another lake. It's quite unusual. Second, about fishes. There are some also catfishes in the Africa, and they so not tasty, and they never to be eaten, but sometimes they dry because of the lack of the water in the pond, and they became like food for the fireplace. So they never be used to eat by people, but they will be put in the fire to, for example, to instead of the wood. And about these fishes, about these catfishes, they also will looking completely dead. You can even break it apart. But if you will give some water to this fish, it will immediately to stay alive.
When we look into the paradoxes, so it seems that it might be look like an exception in the world of the nature, or maybe it also could be, I would say, like mathematical or physical paradoxes. But is it because of we don't know like what is the entire area? So it might be actually not an exception, but actually quite common case, and it could be also have a good reasoning. And a couple of days ago, I was reading. It's called like a theory of dark forest. In fact, it's like a pseudo theory because it was like a I would say collected from one of the books. So the idea is like when there are a lot of unknown nations in a dark forest, so no one wants to show up just because of like they would afraid that someone else would be attacked. But again, like we might be seeing that like overall usually the forest is dark, like no one is there, but apparently like it's a paradox, but there are a lot of people who actually staying there waiting for like do some stuff. So it's like a controversy. So whether, going back to the definition, whether we call paradox is something that is really exception or there actually might be a rule.
Who knows? It depends from the level of our knowledge. For example, if we will look at our Earth, there is also some paradox. In Russian language, they sounds very well. For example, it is a joke that our Earth, it was a coursework of the alien because it's contained too many water.
Well, this is actually
And also, if we will talk about paradox, let's think about in this way. It's a very rare exception that some planets on the in entire space which are lighted by the star. So it is more common to stay in complete dark. So on the majority of the other bodies in the space, there are no light, no gravitation, and no air and no water. So our Earth by itself, it's also paradox. Or for example, like this. Do you know that, I know how to say, позвоночник, вот это вот как называется?
spine.
Spine part. For example, do you know
Spine
how many spine parts in the neck of the giraffe? The same quantity as the human, 7.
And when we look into all of the paradoxes, so let's say we're coming from the very pragmatic side, and the first question might be, okay, why do I need to know this? Let's say I'm like doing business, I'm trying to build a relationship, or maybe like I'm doing certain charity, or even let's say I'm a scientist. Yes, it's good to know about this. Like, what might be the practical use for me? Maybe I just want to share it over the, like a cup of beer or wine with someone just to appear smart, or maybe something that actually could improve my life or the life of someone I work with.
This paradox, sometimes they could be used as a life hacks because if you know the rules, you could break them I give you an example. If you will make a call to the hotel and you'll say, okay, I have an intention to arrive tomorrow, but my plans are changed, so I couldn't come. Please cancel my reservation. You will pay $300 penalty or fine because you're changing your route so fast. But you could make two calls. While first call, you will say, come on, can you change my reservation for the next week? And during your second call, you will cancel the reservation. So you couldn't cancel the reservation in a short term, but it's a paradox, but by hotel rules, you could first change the date and then cancel the reservation without any fee.
Well, it's actually sounds also like a hacking. Basically, you know how something works. You could use it to your own things. And how this paradox will be discovered? Because I do remember there is also one thing that you told us. It's the falsification criteria, or maybe vice versa. You know, like first we will try to make sure actually whether this is real, but then we also will try to figure out like till which level it could be not faked. So how, in general, paradox are discovered and then maybe even documented?
Let's go to the time of Newton. Newton, he was thinking, what is the light? Is it small parts of something or it's beams? And suddenly he realized the light has the dual nature. It's a beam and it's its parts. The same, for example, we will say about troubleshooting. Is it science or is it craft? Both. You should know a lot of science and you should know a lot of different crafts. Or for example, we will talk about English language. I could learn all the words, but sometime I will make some errors because no one will understand the meaning of my phrases. For example, right now I use as errors, but you learn me to say mistakes. And for example, refuse, reject, and some other. And you know, even in Russian language, some foreigner, they couldn't understand why we sometimes say that, for example, pen is laying on the table, but plate is staying on the table. Or for example, bird is sitting on the ветка,
Branch.
I was thinking branch, it's bench and скамейка is bench. So bird is sitting on the branch, but on the legs. So definitely it's standing. So it's a paradox.
Well, then my next question will be more like a practical. Sometimes in the, you know, I would say like maybe the business area or maybe the work area, the paradox, let's say if there is a certain scenario, let's say for example, it might be like a merger and acquisition deal, or it might be like a lawsuit case. So if everyone is expecting things going this way, can't be paradoxes in any areas would be used in order to actually turn the tables to make sure that, you know, like it will go in the completely direction while everyone else would be expecting it to go like in a normal, in a standard, in a very orthodox way.
Let's go to the chess game. Sometimes people who just learned how to play, they refrain from put their figures on the battle. But people with experience, they will sacrifice with some pieces to get the victory. And you know, the same would be, for example, at the battle zone. Sometimes it would be a small group of spies, and they will be used just to discover fire points of the enemies. And those people, they will risk by their life. And you know, it's quite a paradox. You should sacrifice by something or by someone to know your enemies better.
And sometimes paradox also could be used against us. So when it comes to, you know, like something that is something not predictable, something that we can't really, you know, like overcome with the normal things. And I do believe it also boils down to, you know, like how the troubleshooting is working. If we see that there is something that we didn't expect coming, what kind of skills, what kind of mentality, what kind of, you know, like maybe different knowledge from the another areas should be used in order to actually turn the paradox and maybe like move over, or maybe, you know, like pretend that it doesn't exist, or maybe, you know, like create another dimension and walk over it.
You should use paradoxes by itself. I will give you an example. If, for example, you make programming in assembler language or Pascal or Delphi, this is very strict constructions and you couldn't make workaround. But for example, in C language, there are misconceptions of the types. So you could, for example, add A plus B and you will get another letter or some kind of digits. And you know, even right now, there is a holy war in the internet. Is it worse to have it in the C language or this complete disaster? It is used by very high professionals to get some great programs, but if it would be used by dummies, it could lead to errors that, for example, program would crash or make something unacceptable or make something very bad. For example, it was a time I was on the lecture in business law, and suddenly lecture was interrupted and several very good-looking women and men, they came and they were saying about 2000 error, and they were saying that we will meet something bad when we will overcome this date to the first January of 2000. And I was looking at my colleagues in the lecture, and all of them were saying so attentive. And I was asked, okay, come on, guys, I am IT on my first education, so I will say nothing will happen. And everyone was laughing, and I was saying, okay, come on, we have like 4 months before this happen. Let's remind by ourselves how you love, and then we will talk in 5 months. And after 5 months, I came to the this room for lecture performing, and I was asked everyone, okay, now who wants to laugh? And everyone was saying, oh, come on, but maybe you know something we didn't know. I said, yes, I know, but what's paradox? I know and I didn't laugh, and you didn't know and you laugh.
Well, it's actually a funny way to put it this way. Then my last question, and I will rephrase it, will be what kind of paradox humanity may or will resolve so that the Earth will become a better place?
I think it's about nukes. Now we have so many nukes on the planet that we could tear it apart. And you know, if we will make it, no one would win. It would be like nuclear winter because we have too many ashes in the air, and sun couldn't go through this through the smoke. And first, it would be complete death of the grass and trees. Then it would be death of animals, and then we as a human race could also extinguish. And everyone's understanding, but political sometimes give us signs that maybe we could put like a strategic one, small nukes, but it would be no way back.
And we reviewed the skill of paradox and how it could be helpful for you. Stay in peace.